I think one of the findings was from the Southport research was that nearly 1 in 5 millennials feel that brands such as Cadbury or Birdseye don't seem to be speaking to them anymore. They don't feel engaged by those brands. I just wondered what your thoughts were on actually targeting these consumers outside of digital that we've talked about, but their expectations have changed. I mean, we've just done some research at the Grocer which found nearly 1 in 5 millennials now classes whole, full-fat milk, for example, as the most healthiest kind of milk that you can buy. If you go back, 20, 25 years ago, fat was the devil incarnate and we should be avoiding it at all costs. And I pull out this example because it seems concepts of health, indulgence, convenience, and how we go about interacting with brands seem to have changed massively in quite a short space of time. So any thoughts on engaging with this new consumer group?
Well, in terms of those big brands, I think part of the problem sometimes is that they try to be all things to all people, and actually they have this core audience and they're selling well, and they don't necessarily want to give any of that up by sort of moving to new trends and doing different things. But the problem with that is then as you try and hang on to that audience or that group of people, you actually lose them because the trends filter down. So I think health is a really good one. So you're right, so fat was evil. But actually, if anyone was paying attention, sugar became the new demon about 10 years ago. It's now kind of front and center with everybody, but actually the sort of the early adopters of that trend were 10 years ago. And so it's interesting, I think Pepsi Max is a really good example of that. Pepsi Max is the cola brand that's leading the cola category, despite the fact that cola is in decline. And the reason it's growing the category because 10 years ago, Pepsi made a decision that they would only advertise and communicate Pepsi Max, the sugar-free, which seemed at the time like an odd decision. And actually I remember lots of people in the organisation kind of when I joined 6 years ago going, it's so annoying, we're not allowed to talk about products with sugar, we're not allowed to communicate. But now actually that strategy as a long term has really paid off because it's growing the category. Our customers can really see that retailers are really supportive of our sugar-free agenda and they can see that we've been doing it for a while. And I think it's things like that. It's actually recognising those trends, learning to adapt and making, again, brave choices because I think it's because everyone believes in loyalty and they need to retain their current customers. But if you look at the best sort of marketing thinking, the Ehrenberg-Bass principles, they talk about penetration and constantly building your penetration. And actually, money that you spend on loyalty is not nearly as effective as penetration. And if you keep thinking like that and keep thinking about how do you recruit new people in, then I think hopefully you should avoid some of those traps.
I think we've talked a lot about just staying in touch with your consumer. Your consumer is not the consumer that you launched to when you first launched. If you're turning around your brand, you need to sort of stay in tune with how things have changed, how the mentality of your audiences are, and staying relevant. The first thing we said is about being relevant and meaningful, and that might be a completely different concept to a new audience.
Is it also, Phil talked a little bit about disruption. A brand that springs to mind in relation to sugar is, everyone in soft drinks is dumping sugar, distancing themselves from the stuff. There's a little brand called Karma Cola, which is actually making a virtue out of the sugar. It's, it's pure cane sugar, it's organic, it's from a single estate. I haven't seen the sales figures for it, but it's proof, I think, that brands can actually buck the general trend.
Be brave. There's, we've done a bit of a take-home, download thing, and there's some principles about how you can turn around. And one of the things we talk about is almost address your Achilles heel head on. So Skoda did exactly that. It's better than you think. They recognised that everybody knew that they were the butterball jokes, but they were a great car. Really address it head on. Domino's Pizza did a similar thing, addressing their negative criticism head on. Maybe actually sugar is a virtue. If there's a role for sugar in everyone's lives, it doesn't have to be eliminated entirely. So that brand's made a brave move, and good luck to them.